You mentioned that the people were not being carried along, or the government wasn't, or the officials were not working with the people to relocate them. Going back a little bit, in 2012, that was the worst flooding situation we had in the country. Up till now, we've had several so far. We had 100 communities submerged in Niger this season. We've had about 10,000 houses reportedly destroyed in Kano. We had about 10 local government areas in Kogi. Do you think there's another kind of awareness that could have been done? I mean, to educate the people, especially those that live by the riverbanks, by the water banks, to educate them about the importance of moving or taking action whenever those predictions and warnings come?
Okay, so thank you. This is not an indictment on agencies or on government. It's just to say that we have a systemic problem that we need to deal with. Now, when you talk about informing the people, giving them awareness, yes, there'll be a lot of talk around that. But it's one thing to tell somebody that thing is going to hurt you. Stop eating it, but it's not good for you. But how about asking the person, do you have any other thing you could eat? So when you tell people, oh, the water, of course, the first responsibility that the people have is to stay alive. They have that responsibility to themselves and their loved ones. But really, how do people do it? So they say the water is coming. You have seen it years over years that yes, this water does come and it could be really devastating. But you are stranded, you don't know where to go to. So this is where government, local government, state government needs to do much more. You're telling people to move, yes, fine. But how about helping them to know that, look, people, once it's this day in August, up till this time, we have where people can move into and work with their local chiefs, their faith centers, tell people, actually activate the movement, not just saying it. If you're talking about awareness, the awareness is not strong enough. Yes, we hear the news that, oh, they said there's going to be water and flooding and all that. But really taking this issue to the people before that time, in January, for instance, when there's no flooding, in February, in March, working with them, helping them to plan their lives towards when the movement will be required. It's not when it's 2 weeks. I tell somebody who doesn't even know what is going to eat the following month. Don't forget that most communities along these river banks are people who are really struggling to make ends meet. So it's one thing to just say, oh, it's going to happen. It's another thing to work with them, to help them, because it's important. And these people are quite crucial for us, because these are the people who do the agriculture.
But you also know that some of these people, you said it here, some of them feel like we can manage this. We know this terrain. Yeah. We know the rainfall patterns. Yeah. We know how it goes. And some of them may have heard about predictions that didn't come to pass. So they're like, I mean, you told us last year it will flood. It didn't flood. So what makes you think it will happen? They say, we understand the terrain better than you. Do you think that's also a factor?
Well, I would not really place much factor on that for our environment. But of course, you cannot rule that out. But I really don't see that playing much in this regard. People know that this flooding will come. They know that the emergency response is not as efficient as we expect. You know, they don't have the equipment, they don't have what it takes to reach you at any time in any part of the situation that you are stranded. Yes, we know that the Air Force, the military is working with them, the other agencies are working with them, but it doesn't mean that our system is that perfect. And most of the people we are talking about, they are mostly not so literate. We need to also put that these are mostly rural people. Of course, there are some urban dwellers who are, when you look at these water paths that are most often flooded, especially in this time of the year, these are people in the core rural places. So we need to go beyond just saying things that is going to, we need to actively work with them, not when the flooding is coming, but help them plan their lives, plan their harvest, plan their planting, everything, up till the time that they will need to move, so that they really have something to build their life around when they come back.
How much of human activity aggravates the kinds of flooding we saw in 2012 and the ones that are happening now?
To some extent, yes, you can say that human activities. Why? We have really removed the vegetation. We have changed the vegetation We have cut down the trees largely. I am not going to relate those floodings we are seeing, these major ones, to the ones that happen in places like Lagos or to the flash floodings that we see here and there. These are especially the ones that happen in the urban centers. This is as a result of our recklessness. We block our drains, we don't have wide drains, we don't desilt the drains. We do so many crazy things, especially urban people. We are worst in terms of the guilt. Then when you're talking about the kind of flooding that we are seeing because there's been so much rain, and we have built massive dams that held large quantities of water. Those massive dams are the one for River Benue, for instance, Lagdo, is in Cameroon. They need it for their own irrigation and hydroelectric power. We also have ours. Now, we have to start releasing the waters in this dam because they have witnessed more rain that they can hold.
Are the dams being released now?
Yes, they are being released gradually. If they are not released gradually, if they are to burst, there will be a larger problem. So this, you can say to a good extent that, of course, is human cost, but yes, more importantly is that we are seeing more rains within shorter time than we are used to. So you can imagine this same quantum of rain that we've seen, if it's spread across the rainy season evenly, there might not be so much problem. But because within certain short time, you have such a large quantum of rain, of course it adds to flooding, it causes the dams to quickly go beyond their capacities, and then you have to release. And don't forget, even in a state like Lagos, we are though we are not in the Delta Plain, but there are rivers that pass through Lagos. So when it's time to release the Oyon Dam in Ogun State, Lagos State will witness what we witness every year, which affects this axis, which is flooding. So these are things we need to know and help people who don't have any other means of livelihood or any alternative shelter. We are not deliberately building shelters that can withstand this situation. So for instance, in local government where we know that this often will happen, so you need to have a couple of facilities in those local government that are deliberately built. We know the level of the water. You will build these facilities deliberately that when it is time, this will be the Noah's Ark for the people to head to. It is not just a move to where?
What can you tell us about the ecological funds? Because we know at some point in 2016, ecological funds were given to about a couple of states, I think about 16 states for that matter, to try to control or contain the effects of the flooding at that time. Should we be doing the same thing every time these floods come?
No, it's unfortunate. We throw money at problems, and of course we just enrich some people. Ecological Fund is the most opaque thing in Nigeria, and if we unbundle the Ecological Fund spending, many governors and what have you will find their days in court. So the reality is that it is not something you just throw. What are you throwing the money at? Okay, so if you give money to state A, what are you saying they are to do? And don't forget that these states are contiguous. So one goes into another, especially those along the River Niger and River Benue plains. So what are they to do such that what you are doing dovetails into what I am doing? We are reducing the chances of people being in the path of the water. We are also dealing with the flooding to control it such that when it does come, we can reduce the devastating impact on the people. These are things that it is a national plan that we are supposed to be using money to address, not just throwing money that are most often not accounted for. So you remember in the 2012, after the disaster, the then president of the country released 17 billion and categorized states into A, B, C, and what have you. I tell you for free, some of the farmers whose farms were devastated got 500 naira. And I keep repeating that same amount of money, if given to NEMA 3 months before that crisis, they will be able to work with the people. Look, it's better that you work with them.
They will or they should?
They should. Yes, they should. And they would, because really, these agencies do not have the capacity that it's often when the disaster has struck that you see money being released to them, go do this, go do that. No. You see, what you can do when the disaster has struck with 10 naira, you can do much more with 1 naira long before it happens. Because you will then empower the people to help themselves. So you will let somebody know that, okay, plants at this time, be ready to move this, don't do this yet because this is likely to happen.